Sandy here. Welcome to my channel. This is the first tutorial, part 1, on remaking this book box and album. We're going to make the box first. So I'm going to go over it with you, the pieces that I have cut. I will type up a cutting guide and provide the link, but there'll be more added to it as we go. I'll provide the link to my Google Drive documents so that you can go ahead and print that up and follow along to cut. So we're going to be making the box first, and we're going to be making it out of Christmas Dreams, the 12 by 12 by Country Craft Creations, and I am using white artisan cardstock and heavyweight chipboard. So I'm going to run through these pieces with you really quick. For the book box, we're going to cut 4 8 by 10 out of the heavyweight chipboard. We need 4 3-inch by 9 and 3-inch by 7.5, and then we need one that is 10 by 5 cut with the curve for the 5-inch. Now what that means is if you cut this away for your 5-inch, it doesn't give as much. This way it has a little bit more give with the 5-inch width. So you would put this in so that you're bending, here's in your cutter, and cut 5 inches, then turn and cut at 10. So you want the more bend with the 5-inch going across this way. And so it'll be stiffer for the 10-inch. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to cut the 5-inch with the curve. Okay, so that's our chipboard. For your chipboard pieces, you will need to use 6 12 by 12 heavyweight chipboard to get all these cut. And then for your cardstock, I'm using the white artisan. I put down that you need 6, but I think if you cut your bigger pieces first, you'll have enough scraps that you can possibly get by with 5. So 5 to 6 of the 12 by 12 white artisan cardstock, and the measurements that you want to cut are, you need 2, and these are to wrap our chipboard pieces. You need 2 that are 10 by 12. You need 2 that are 5 by 9.5. 2 that are 5 by 11, and 1 that is 12 by 7. These are construction hinges. In my original box, that's how I put it together. I'm pretty sure we're still going to need to do it that way. So for your hinge pieces, they're all going to be cut 1.5 inches wide so that you can score the 1.5 inch side at 3/4 of an inch. And you're going to need 2 1.5 by 3, 2 1.5 by 9, 2 1.5 by 7.5, 2 1.5 by 7 3/8, 2 1.5 by 3, 2 1.5 by 8 7/8, and 1 that is 1.5 by 10. I cut the longer ones first. I cut them all in my paper into 1.5 inch strips and cut the longest one, and then on down to the shortest pieces. So that worked out well for me. And like I said, you may get by with just 5 sheets of the cardstock. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to prep our chipboard pieces. So let's move our cardstock out of the way for now. Set aside this one that's cut on the curve, this 5 by 10. I'm going to set that aside. These we're going to double up. I know it's heavyweight chipboard, but for this book box, I did use doubled chipboard to make it really heavy box because it's a big box. So take 2 pieces that are the same size and your art glitter glue, and you're going to glue these together, 2 pieces together. Get my glue going here. There we go. Sometimes it just wants to clog on up in there. Even though I have the pen in, I want to just get it opened up a little better. So glue 2 pieces that are the same size together on all of these. There we go. Well, that's more glue than I needed, but here we go. And I'm doing this without the fine tip on it. So you glue these together just like this. Make sure they're straight and matching up on all the sides. You don't want them crooked or anything. And I just take my hands and I kind of press it together. It's gonna glue, and you're gonna set those aside and let them dry. So you're gonna end up with 2 of the bigger pieces, your 8 by 10s. So this is your bottom of your box and the lid. Make sure we got glue there. And again, sandwich this together. So what we're going to do today on our first day is get all these pieces done, cut. You're going to cut all these. I did mine off camera, of course. Get all your pieces cut, your chipboard pieces glued together like I'm doing right now. And then we're going to go ahead and wrap today our chipboard pieces, and probably wait till the next day or next session to start assembly of our box. That will give you time to get yours cut out and, you know, get these pieces together and wrapped. So do all these, and again, same sizes glued together to make a double thickness. This makes a really strong, heavy box. So you need this. And I know you're going to say, wait, they're not the right size. That's because they're offset with the book. If you'll notice here, we have this lip here on our box. We don't make the inner part the same size as our lid and bottom. And so let's go ahead and finish gluing these together. Now you do not glue 2 pieces for your rounded cover part. And then I'm going to show you something on that we need to do to get that ready. Now my original box was made out of black chipboard, and I did not wrap it. So I have I'm going to see how it works on that. I may have to change something a little bit, but we'll see. So let's do these last 2 sections here. Put them together. And do this anytime you need an extra heavy box. You can glue chipboard together and make it double thickness. Okay, one more. And we're going to let these dry pretty good before we start wrapping. So we're going to work on this curved piece next. We need to make it curve, I think, just a little bit more. I can't remember if I did that on the original or not, because I didn't write down really good notes. I just wrote down measurements. So we're going to set these aside and let them dry for now. We're going to grab our trimmer. If you have a Fiskars trimmer. Now, this is my good blade. I'm going to take my good blade off, and I'm going to go grab one of my older blades that I can use on chipboard. Okay, when a blade gets a little wonky, cutting a little raggedy, I switch out and put a new one in, and I keep the old one and I write on it dull blade chipboard, or I color it black or something like that, and I keep this little cover on it. And that's the one I'm going to use for chipboard. Now, I'm going to cut this, not to cut it all the way through, but like partially scoring it. So I don't need the curve over all of it. So I'm going to put this in at about, let's see, how far over did it come? About an inch. So I'm going to put this in at an inch right here. And I'm just going to lightly score it. It shouldn't go all the way through. Let's take it up and look. So it's just, see, it doesn't cut all the way through. So that was at an inch. So I'm going to put it at an 1.25 inches. Make sure I'm lining it up straight. 1.25 inches, inch to 1.25 inches right there. And make another cut. Not all the way through. So I'm not pressing down real hard. I'm just letting it go. But it's not a sharp blade. Now at 1.5 inches. 1 3/4. And then I'm going to flip it around. And I'm going to cut at 1 inch on this other side for now. And on the blade, 1 1/4 inches. 1.5 inches. 1 3/4. So here I didn't cut it at 1 inch. That's what I'm missing one. I need to go back and get that one at the inch mark. Okay. And so we were at, what, 1 3/4. Let's do 2 inches. 2 inches on each side. And then go ahead and do 2 1/4. Turn it over, 2 1/4. So we're just putting 1/4 inch lines in here. We have enough for now. And what was that, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, I think. We'll do the last one just on one side. So there we have every 1/4 inch, and see, that helps it to bend so much better, like that. Okay, so that's our curved piece for our book. So we're ready to start wrapping our chipboard pieces. Make sure you switch out your blade, take out your dull blade, and put your good one back in so that you don't forget when you're ready to cut cardstock or patterned paper. So we'll move that out of the way. I'm going to grab my scoreboard and my 1 inch spacers. These are from Country Craft Creations. You can order those online at the countrycraftcreations.com. These are called album spacers. You get in a set, you get 2 1 inch ones by 12 and one that is 1.5 inches by 12, but I'm only going to use the 1 inch today. So I'm going to take this piece here that is cut at the cardstock is cut at 7 by 12, and then I'm taking this chipboard piece that we cut the 1/4 inch grooves on. Just kind of bend this a little bit to kind of work it so that I know it's going to bend. Okay, so I'm going to use score tape sheets on this one piece because I don't want any buckling. Okay, so to prep that, I cut this piece of score tape sheets to the 5 by 10. So I'm going to peel the backing off, and I'm going to stick this down. Now I'm sticking it down on the side that I cut the grooves on because this is where I want the finished side of my cardstock to be. So I'm just putting this in the scoreboard, and I'm going to line this up right here on the edge. It's kind of coming up, so it's it wants to come up. Let me turn this sideways maybe a little bit so that I can see what I'm doing and hold it down. So I'm going to get it right on the edge like that. Whoops, there we go. And touch it down. It's off a little bit over here on the side, but that's okay. And then I'm going to burnish that so that the backing will come off easier for this piece here. Okay, for the wrapping. Now let's take this. We're going to take that bigger piece of cardstock that's a 12 by 7. We're going to put our spacers in. And we're going to peel this backing off. And we're going to stick it down flat right up against those spacers so that we end up having about 1 inch all the way around on all 4 sides. And so that keeps that nice and smooth, so it's not going to buckle, but it's still going to have a little bit of bend. We're going to have to work with it to get it to bend. But it's still going to give us that curve that we want for the back of the book. So I'm just kind of working with that to curve to make sure that it can curve. And it's going to be covered with pattern paper, so you can kind of see the lines, but not a whole lot through that white. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this piece. Take my scissors and I'm going to miter cut. And here's one trick I've learned with miter cutting. If you will fold your cardstock at your corner, you can kind of see where you're going to cut your cutting line. Right there, so you stay inside of that line. That's about 1/16 of an inch from the tip of your cardstock. Gives me, I can see that line, and I know to not cut on that fold, but just to the outer part of it, away from that corner. So it's about 1/16 of an inch. Now then, I'm going to use glue to wrap this. I do like to take a little bit of score tape and put it in the center to help hold this down while the glue grabs. Put it on each of the 4 sides, just like this, right in the center. If you want to use score tape for this step, then you certainly can, but I prefer to use the glue. We're going to do the 2 long sides first, so let's take our tape backings off. Let's take the glue. We're going to run a line of glue right along the edge of the chipboard, and then on the flap around the score tape. You don't have to put it over the score tape. And then we're going to fold this over. I should have already folded it, but I forgot to do that. But I think we'll be okay. We're going to burnish that down with that score tape grab there in the center, and then burnish these flaps all the way. Okay, I'm going to stand this one up the way I should have earlier. And we'll put our glue along the edge, and then on our flap around the score tape. Bring this over, press it down, and burnish. Okay, now where this extends, this piece that we just put down, where it extends into this end flap, we're going to take this and bend this in. That little piece that's overextends. And I'm going to check it to make sure I haven't cut too much away. Almost did. There we go. Because I didn't pull this other one tight enough. Right there. Let me check these. This one needs to be brought in. And that one burnished down. Let's check that one. Those are okay. Now then, take your tape backing off. And again, take your glue along the chipboard and around the flap, around the score tape on the flap. And then bring this over and burnish. That one's done nice and neat. This one here, I don't think I pulled my sides very well. So I'm a little short right there, but it's gonna I'm going to work with that. Bring this in, the glue. Whoops, I didn't take my tape backing off. Let's grab that really quick. I'm going to find my pokey tool. I know it's here somewhere on my table. Some of my tools. And some glue here. Okay. And bring this over and touch it down. Okay. So I have that little messed up right there on that corner, but it's going to be okay because it's going to be attached down on our book box. So we have that. And now this is where we're going to just kind of work with it and get that curving going on again. Make sure you really burnish this right in here because it's going to want to pop up some because it's got the glue there. I'm just going to keep folding it a little bit and working that like that. Kind of rolling it and getting that curve. It doesn't have to be a lot of curve, but just enough to give you that rounded look like that. And we are going to have to line this inside with some cardstock. We'll do that later. Okay, so let's get the other pieces wrapped. I'm going to set this one aside. So let's take the bigger pieces. These are our 10 by 12. 10 by 12. And I'm just going to use glue on these. And this is your chipboard piece. That is your 8 by 10, which is doubled. And that's going to go right there. So I'll put glue on one side. Now then push this down, butt it up, both of the guides, and just turn it over and burnish that with your hand to get that glue to smooth out. Now with the white, it sometimes shows more than other cardstocks, but remember you are going to have your patterned paper on this. So let's go ahead, let that dry and do our next one. Same size, 10 by 12. And the 8 by 10 piece of double thickness chipboard. Move it over, flip it over, and burnish with your hands, warming up that glue and letting it spread out in there. Okay, let that dry. And grab other pieces. So this is your 5 by 11, which is for your longer chipboard pieces. This is for your 3 by 9s. So it's going to fit like that. There. And then next what we're going to do, put these spacers up. We're going to wrap all these pieces. Now we're not using wings because we're going to use hinges for these. put this out of the way for now. Stack our hinges up so we don't lose them. There we go. And put this over and burnish it right quick. Okay, so let's grab all our pieces and we're ready to start wrapping. So I'll start with the biggest ones first. Okay. So this time let's stand them up on the edges and get a nice crease along the chipboard. And you can fold that. I think I need to cut a little bit more than that than I did last time, but that's still a good way to get your line mark and stay at least 1/16 of an inch from that line. That gives us about 1/8 of an inch. I think that looks better. 1/8 of an inch from the tip. There are mitering tools, and I actually have one here somewhere, but I never remember to get it out. But you can find mitering tools. I think I got mine on Etsy. Mine is metal. Okay. And remember, if you want to help pull that down, to put a little bit of score tape in the center of each flap. That's totally optional. Or you may do solid score tape. That's fine also. If you like to do that instead of glue. Finish those, and I'm going to do the long sides first. Glue along the chipboard onto the cardstock, and then on your flap around your score tape. Fold this over, attach it down, and burnish. That it's going to be a little thicker on the edges than you're normally used to seeing, and that's okay. Let's do the other side. Glue. Bring that over. Might help if you use the bone folder to kind of run that up against the thickness of the chipboard edges, and burnish. I need to grab me a wipe for sure. Got too much glue. I use the Viva paper towels. And just burnish that. Make sure you clean off your bone folder if you've got a lot of glue coming out. And burnish that edge. Now then, we're going to take these and we're going to fold in the excess here on the corners. Check the tape off. First, I'm going to check it and make sure it looks fine. Maybe just a little bit trimmed off right there. Okay, so we found the glue. I need to take the tape backing off. that in. Burnish that. Other side. And double check it. Okay. Tape backing off. Glue along the chipboard edge onto the cardstock. And then on your flap. Fold it over using the bone folder to help press it up against that edge. And burnish. Okay. Okay, so there is one. I'm going to speed up the camera on the rest of them and get those all wrapped. Okay, so there's our pieces, all our chipboard pieces wrapped and ready. And the one last thing we'll do today is cover this inside. So I'm going to cut a piece 4.5 by 9 3/4. Okay, so from my scrap I was able to cut a piece that's 4.5 by 9 3/4, and hopefully you have that piece too without having to go into another sheet. And then I took another 8.5 by 11 sheet of score tape sheet and cut a piece also the same size, 4.5 by 9 3/4. And I'm just going to put this on the inside back piece here because I want that finished. When you look inside your book, you need to be able to see that it is finished in there. It doesn't have to be pattern paper, but it needs to be the white. So I'm just going to line this up here And I've already got it curved a little bit, so I'm just going to place it almost to the end. And it doesn't have to quite go all the way to the side. So it's about 1/8 of an inch from each end or so. It's just finishing that inside piece there. I'm going to burnish it, and I'm using score tape so it doesn't buckle. So it's going to be nice and smooth. So I'm going to let that kind of curve just a little bit here. That curve and piece. Okay, and you're going to see some little wrinkles in there, and that's okay, because that's just going to happen with this curving action going on. Okay, so that's that for today. We've got that piece ready. We've got our hinges. We'll score those on our next session. So this is the end of tutorial part 1 of the book box for Christmas Dreams. So be sure to subscribe and click on the bell so you'll know when the next video is up. Thanks. Bye-bye.